Now, President Trump, in an interview with Mark Caputo of Axios, made clear what he thinks of those, including his own allies at home, who want to see the fighting resume to, in their view, finish the job.
Stock market's up thousands of points. Everybody's richer. Now, would you rather have that or be like some stupid people? I'd be honest with you. I lost respect for some people because
who'd you lose respect?
I don't want to mention the names.
Oh, you can't.
But you know, hardliners. Oh, we got to take them out yet.
Well, what are you going to?
Let me tell you. And plus, I'm not looking to kill people.
Now, while all of this is playing out, the president today also looked to shift the conversation to something that he would much rather talk about: the unveiling of his new Air Force One, as he acknowledged that he is also the one who asked the Qataris about getting a new plane.
And I asked the Emir if we could use the brand new 747 that he got when we first heard about it, 800 hours. 800 hours for an airplane is essentially, I think, Troy, you could say that's a brand new plane. And I said, we'd like to use it for a little while because the planes are pretty old. Our planes are old. See, a normal president wouldn't do this. A normal president wants to stay away from aircraft. We don't want to order any aircraft so that everybody thinks, but our country has to be represented properly.
Now, it was just over a year ago that even Republicans had been raising concerns about the ethical, legal, and national security questions that plane represents.
I'm not a fan of Qatar. I think they have a really disturbing pattern of funding theocratic lunatics who want to murder us, funding Hamas and Hezbollah. And that's a real problem. I also think that the plane poses significant espionage and surveillance problems.
Now, regarding those concerns, and when asked about them, the Trump administration put the Air Force in charge of vetting and retrofitting this plane, including security sweeps for spyware, installing secure communications for the president to be able to use when he's traveling. And today, Senator Cruz's concerns have much more to do with funding Middle East terrorism and being focused on a different target, which is now that Iran agreement that the president himself is fighting to save.
I think if the Ayatollah gets $300 billion, that money will be used to fund terrorism and to murder Americans.
My lead source tonight is the Republican Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio, who sits on the House Armed Services Committee. And thank you for being here. With all the fighting going back and forth with Israel and Hezbollah and Lebanon, are you worried that it could derail this?
Well, first off, Kaitlan, no one trusts Iran. And the fact that Hezbollah has attacked Israel, everyone, and surely it's the United States policy that Israel has the right to defend itself. But in this, because we don't trust Iran, there's a grave concern, and they're the greatest sponsor of terrorism, and certainly Hezbollah's supporter. The concern is as to what extent is this mischief from Iran derailing itself, its own settlement agreement, its own peace agreement. But the concern here also has to be for Lebanon. Israel, in attacking, Hezbollah is attacking into Lebanon. They're not attacking Lebanon. And this agreement does call for a ceasefire in Lebanon. And the words that you just read were, of course, despicable concerning Lebanon itself. Lebanon is as much a victim as Hezbollah as the Israelis are. And this is an area that has to be resolved also. Hezbollah deserves to be held accountable, but Lebanon deserves to have sovereignty also.
I mean, if Israel doesn't withdraw their forces from Lebanon, which Netanyahu has said he doesn't plan to do, and you see the fighting continue, is there a line where you would draw that in terms of supporting Israel, sending them shipments? Because the president seems pretty fed up with Netanyahu right now.
Well, I mean, your point of your question is, does the United States have leverage? And we certainly do. And are there, and as we look to, Israel has a right to defend itself. Yes, it does. But also in this, the interest in ensuring that this peace agreement, that this opportunity to resolve some of the disputes in this region must be given a chance is real. And I know this administration is going to rise to that challenge.
You just mentioned Iran being a state sponsor of terrorism. This is something, obviously, that the United States has designated them as. You've talked about this at length before. Are you comfortable with them getting access to money from oil sales or unfrozen assets to continue sponsoring terrorism?
Well, that's, there's a lot that has to happen, and there's a nexus here that even the vice president has said, is not a dotted line. There's a far cry from when the Obama administration put pallets of cash that is untraceable and shipped it to the Ayatollah under the JCPOA, and going through a process whereby there's a negotiation and then a deal where they're once again no longer having their assets frozen and no longer having sanctions, and enter back into the legitimized financial transactions of the world that are traceable and are followed. That is a far cry where, as the vice president was laying out, where the transactions can be traceable and certainly can be controlled and understood.
But the oil
can
sales
affect their ability to support terrorism.
I mean, they can sell oil right now.
Right,
They can sell it to much more attractive currencies than they've been able to, where China is buying it at a discount, basically.
With their economy being significantly diminished and impacted.
Yeah, but if they're selling oil, they're going to make more money, and that's going to boost their economy, is it not?
Which is a goal, because and that's obviously why in this agreement it identifies that there would be this opportunity for a $300 billion economic development fund, because of course it would pull Iran back into the Western community, back into the community that our allies and their neighbors are in, and also give the people of Iran an opportunity for Iran to make a transition, because there has to be a transition here. It can't just be that forever Iran is left with sanctions and is frozen. If there is an opportunity, as the vice president has laid out, for Iran to make a change, we have to take that opportunity.
But right now, I mean, it's the same leadership that's in charge. It's the son of the previous Ayatollah. It's the IRGC still in charge.
Right, but
does that seem like that's changing to you?
They made a declaration in the beginning of this conflict that they would never state that they would walk away from their nuclear ambitions. They just did. So they are already beginning.
Yeah, but they've kind of said that before.
No, but they
by kind of, I mean, they did say it in the JCPOA.
They said it with their having underground nuclear enrichment facilities that we really didn't have the ability to understand exactly what was going on, that are now gone, that this administration in Midnight Hammer took out. And that agreement had a termination provision in it, so they know they would be released from it while they continued to have their underground nuclear enrichment, which have been eliminated in this military conflict, which is why this military conflict was important. This is not the same situation. In Midnight Hammer, they just lost their underground nuclear enrichment.
Then why was the war necessary?
Under the Obama administration, they were permitted to continue all of their clandestine facilities that they had to continue to operate them.
Yeah, I mean, but then some people would say, why did this war happen, for these 5 months? Because if the facilities were destroyed and they weren't a threat of having a nuclear weapon.
Because they had said they would not get rid of their nuclear ambitions, that they were going to continue to enrich, they were going to rebuild all of their facilities, they were going to continue to their quest and their nuclear ambitions. And they were going to continue to be a threat to everyone in the region, and we saw that they were. And then they closed the Strait of Hormuz. This agreement does two things. It ends the military conflict over their nuclear ambition, and two, it resolves the issue of the straits. Now there's going to be continued negotiations on the nuclear material that remains, what's going to happen with respect to the oil programs.
The straits weren't an issue before the war started. I mean, you're saying that was solved, but that was a problem that was created by the war, where Iran used that leverage and still could use it again. But
no. You can't dismiss. You can't just say, oh, it was created by the war. It was created by the fact that Iran was continuing to march itself into becoming a nuclear power in the area.
But the strait was open before the war started. Is my point.
You can't say, oh, the strait's open, so we're just going to allow them to have that open straits, and we're going to allow them to march toward a nuclear weapon. There are trade-offs here. If you're going to say what we're going to, as every other administration has, we're not going to allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon, that we're going to take that action, the strong action that this administration did. By the way, those military plans have been on the table of every president since Bush, and he's the first one who did.
On the reconstruction fund.
Now, hold on. To say that you're going to do that, and then the straits got closed, you can't divorce them. If he takes that step and they close the straits, this was the action that was important.
No, I'm just simply saying it was open before the war and then it was closed during the war. But can I ask you about the reconstruction fund?
What was before the war is they were marching to a nuclear
weapon. The reconstruction fund, sir. You mentioned that, and that's part of this, $300 billion. Eric Erickson asked today why they would need a reconstruction fund if only their military targets had been hit during this war. What would that be necessary for? And Senator John Cornyn said that it would be used to rebuild their ballistic missile and military industrial base, their uranium enrichment program, and their support for their terrorist proxies. Do you think he's wrong? That's what they'd use a reconstruction fund for?
He certainly wasn't involved in the negotiations, and he's certainly not going to be involved in the negotiations ongoing. And I certainly take the statements of those who've been involved in the negotiations to be very, very important. And what they have said is that these are going to be financial arrangements for the purposes of looking at economic development that would work to bring Iran into, as their neighbors have, as the Middle East transformation as we have seen, as the Abrams Accord has taken hold and economic development in the region has taken hold, to make a difference for the population of Iran and hopefully make them in that transition that can take them out of being a terrorist state. Now, that's the hope. We hope also that this military action and this agreement and then these steps will ensure that we're not going to be dealing with a nuclear Iran that will have threatened both our allies, Europe, our allies in the region, and the United States.
Do you think Iran should be able to have ballistic missiles?
Well, this agreement, the president has said that there are two things that this is not going to address. It's not going to address both missiles, and it doesn't address their nefarious actions in the area. It certainly doesn't address their terrorist proxies. Those are two things that former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo had identified in the first Trump administration. Those were certainly things that were very important to me and others that we had looked for in this agreement that are not there.
Should they be?
Certainly, I think that our actions in looking in the development of Iran desperately needs to be in, well, what does that mean? Because what we saw in this last conflict is Iran exhibited capabilities to reach Europe and to reach London, and we certainly don't want
But the president
said
the other day that they should be able to have ballistic missiles. He said if Saudi Arabia has them, they should have them. Do you agree with that?
I think he was talking about being able to deter their neighbors and the people that in the region that are also that they may be in conflict with. I don't believe he was talking about being.
But do you agree that they should have ballistic missiles? Period.
It would not be my preference. We'll have to see exactly what what comes out of this agreement. But there is no way that I believe that Iran should continue to be a threat to our allies, to Israel, to the United States, and certainly to Europe.
I mean, they were bombing half of the allies in the region when the war started. So we've seen how they'll use them.
There's no question that they remain a threat when they have the capability.
Yeah. Congressman Mike Turner, thank you for joining us tonight. It's great to have you here on set.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Also here with me now is CNN national security analyst and the former deputy director of national intelligence, Beth Sanner. And Beth, obviously seeing this fighting play out between Israel and Hezbollah that's been going on, I mean, the administration seems to be arguing that it's making it harder to get a deal done in the next 60 days.
Yeah, I think that the real problem here, Caitlin, is that both Iran and Israel actually have some reasons to want to continue the war in Lebanon. You know, Iran, I think we shouldn't forget this point. The Prime Minister of Lebanon confirmed reports that we've had since last year that the IRGC sent officers in to run Hezbollah, that they are in command of Hezbollah. So this is, you know, Iran today negotiating with the United States via Qatar to stop this fighting that was started by Hezbollah. This is kind of like, you know, the arsonists and the firefighters at the same time, right? And so, you know, I think that we know from the fact that Israel has political reasons to want to do this, as well as, you know, Netanyahu, but also because the North keeps getting bombed, right? So there's a lot going on here. But, you know, Iran actually comes out of today, I think, with greater legitimacy, being emboldened, making Israel look like the weaker partner, and dividing the United States and Israel. These are all goals for Iran.
Well, I want you to listen to what the president had to say on the Israel side of this about the prime minister of Israel specifically.
If it weren't for Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu worked well with me, but he will tell you, we're the ones with the guns, we're the ones with the whole deal, we're the ones with the B-2 bombers, etc. If it weren't for Donald Trump, Israel would have been eviscerated.
Your relationship with Netanyahu is...
It's good, but we have to keep him a little bit sane.
I mean, how do you think the prime minister hears that?
Well, it hasn't just been that, right? I mean, he said some pretty disparaging things about Netanyahu over the last couple weeks. You know, he's the very junior partner. I mean, very, very junior. He'll do whatever I tell him to do. I'm the one who decides. This is a person who runs a country, who's been the prime minister for, you know, almost 2 decades. And, you know, he is running for re-election, and right now he's underwater in the polls. And guess who else is underwater in the polls in Israel? Donald Trump. He used to be riding high with like almost like 60+% popularity. And in the past 3 weeks, it's literally flipped the other way, and he's almost 70% negative views in Israel because of this deal. And this gives Netanyahu a lot more room for maneuver because he can take Donald Trump on a little bit more, and he may need to. This election is about winning, but it's also about, for Netanyahu, staying out of jail.
Yeah, and it's coming up obviously soon. In terms of what's happening right now with Switzerland, I mean, the vice president was scheduled to go yesterday. He scrapped that trip. They said he stands ready to go. Now we know Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are on their way. I mean, what are you watching in terms of if that's going anywhere or the status of those talks?
I actually think this is very good news. The Iranians, you know, used Lebanon as an excuse, right? It is number 1. It's the first number in the MOU. The United States didn't want Lebanon to be in this MOU. They wanted total decoupling because they knew, this administration knew that this was going to be a problem, but they couldn't avoid it. They obviously couldn't get a deal without it. So Iran uses this as an excuse, and they'll light the fire again if they want to extend things some more. But look, the United States wants to start talking about nuclear issues. There's nothing in this MOU that says they have to begin that today. There's a lot more that is owed Iran, and that Iran has to open up the strait before that begins.
Yeah. Beth Sanner, always great to have your expertise. Thank you. Thank you to the congressman as well. Up next here for us on The Source, what the president says he told Netanyahu as their strikes were threatening his agreement with Iran. Plus, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani has new criticism of Democrats, why he says his party must change.
For far too long, our party has seen its job as managing decline instead of delivering material change for working people.
Are you going to be able to control Israel from attacking Lebanon?
Yeah, I will be. I mean, I wonder. They have a lot of respect for me, and they do as I say.
That was the interview with Axios. It was taped yesterday, but today it came as the president's deal with Iran had been put in jeopardy after Israeli strikes had killed at least 47 people in southern Lebanon after the Iran-backed militant group had killed 4 Israeli soldiers. It's one of the deadliest days we've seen in Lebanon since this conflict started. And the two sides have now agreed to renew the ceasefire that was in place. It remains to see if it stays in place. As President Trump told NBC News that he was the one who urged Israel to agree to today's ceasefire, saying this of Benjamin Netanyahu, quote, "You just got to calm down sometimes and use your head." My source tonight is Rahm Emanuel, CNN's senior political and global affairs commentator, and also the former ambassador to Japan under President Biden. I mean, the president says that, you know, he's basically telling them what to do here. Do you think that's true?
Well, there's clearly, yes. The short answer is yes, and it's a massive problem for the prime minister. And he got himself in a world of hurt, and he's really diminished Israel's security. And this is not a person, the president is not a person I would tie Israel's security. He basically, if you look at the first paragraph of the agreement, Israel's problem is on the northern border. Hezbollah started the fighting, and the United States, complicit with Iran, now has leverage over Israel.
Yeah, because in that first agreement it says, and its allies.
Yeah,
referencing Israel.
Listen, and the problem is he's not treating, neither one are treating each other as allies in the sense of Israel and the United States. Now, you know this. You and I have talked about it. July 8th, I'm going to go to Tel Aviv and give a major speech at Tel Aviv University on the state of U.S.-Israel relationships and
what
the road
What are you going to say about all of this?
Well, you'll stay tuned is the first part. But what I'm going to talk about is that this relationship is at a crossroads, and it can't sustain itself in this basis. Now, Yitzhak Rabin, the former prime minister of Israel, the late Yitzhak Rabin, famously said that Israel has to make peace as if there's no terror and fight terror as if there's no peace. The problem for Prime Minister Netanyahu is over his 17-year career, the longest-serving prime minister, he has done only one thing, which is constant war with no political track. And here you have the Lebanese government, for the first time, wants to work something out with Israel the way Jordan did, the way Egypt did, and he totally stonewalled them, and they want to get rid of Hezbollah. And he doesn't ever take risks for peace. The problem is that the only risk he's taken is risks on the military side. And Israel, they've killed the head of Iran, they've killed the head of Hezbollah, they killed the head of Hamas, and they're both strategically weakened and politically and internationally isolated. The prime minister has put Israel in a horrible position, and the problem is Trump is taking out on him because Trump now knows he got himself in a bad position, and he's going to blame somebody. As you well know, having covered him, all the president does is blame somebody else.
Speaking of presidents, you worked for President Obama, and there was a massive gathering of pretty much everyone who worked for President Obama in Chicago yesterday.
Your ability to spot the obvious is a gift. Yes.
Thank you. That's why I have this show. But, you know, watching all of these Democratic luminaries gathered in Chicago yesterday for this and honoring him as the Presidential Center and Library was being opened. And you saw President Biden was there, Hillary Clinton was there, President Bush was there. Everyone was there. And President Clinton there obviously as well. But, you know, looking at that, and then today there was this rally of progressives, and New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani was there, and he spoke about what his criticism of Democrats is right now. And he said this.
The Democratic Party must change. For far too long, our party has seen its job as managing decline instead of delivering material change for working people. That old way of thinking will lose on Tuesday. And frankly, it will lose in South Carolina and New Hampshire. It will fall short of 270 electoral votes. Because the party of the past will not be what leads us into the future.
Is he right?
Oh, well, look, you know this. I've been quite critical of the Democrats because I think they got themselves into what I think are cultural wars. They brought the cultural wars to schools. Rather than deal with academic excellence, they dealt with bathroom access. Now, what I find interesting is, you know this, I've spent my life turning red districts to blue. What the socialist wing has decided to do is turn blue districts to cobalt blue. And that doesn't make Hakeem Jeffries the speaker the way in 2006 we made Nancy Pelosi the speaker. Second, if you go look at strategically, you know, if you look at the IRA and you look at the ACA, it was two Democratic senators in both pieces of legislation who came from red states. The way you create a majority either in the legislative body or win the presidency is moving red areas to blue, not blue areas to cobalt blue or to midnight blue. And that's all that happens. Take a look in Omaha. We've lost 3 times with the most progressive candidate. We finally got a person like Denise Powell, and we're in a position to finally flip a seat. That's how you build a majority. And if you also look presidentially, 7 states, 500,000 voters across those states, Kaitlan, have decided the last 3 presidents. None of those states, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada, the industrial Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania, they're not electing socialists. They're flipping the way you're going to win governors in those areas, senators, recruiting strong candidates, as we did over the years, who can make a case, like in La Crosse, Wisconsin, there's a woman there, Rebecca, who is running as a, she grew up on a farm. She has a credibility. Denise Powell in Omaha, Nebraska.
So do you think he's off?
I think he's right. The criticism about a party, I have been tough on the party because I think it has missed where middle America is. I think they're having a growth agenda, not just a redistribution agenda, not just corrupt corporatism, a growth agenda that creates jobs and creates middle class and lives. That's the right thing. But I will tell you this, if you look at this, the challenge in the primaries, they're taking on Democrats and really aren't going to change the vote. How do you get the question? I have one question. Winning a New York City Democratic district in a primary doesn't make Hakeem Jeffries the speaker. As I used to say to Nancy Pelosi when we were doing this together in the trenches, the gavel comes in one size. So the question is, how do you get to 216, not how do you take a district and get to 214?
I also have to ask you about something you posted on Twitter.
Okay.
Can we show the tweet? It was obviously as we're looking at
it's kind of good, don't you think?
the new plane. You said, doesn't everybody celebrate the 250-year anniversary of America's independence by showcasing the president's $400 million gift plane from Qatar and building a $600 million ballroom funded by taxpayer dollars while Americans are paying about $4 for gasoline? What a way to tell us it's Trump's world and we are all just living in it and paying the price. Happy birthday, America. I don't think you meant that at the end.
Again, you're showing a unique ability to just cut through the chase right there. No, look at this. We're coming up to America and to the celebration of this great country. You know, 2 generations ago, my grandfather came here as a 14-year-old.
But Trump's argument is this is a way to represent America in a nice way on the world
This was a payoff. That plane is a payoff. The ballroom are nothing but people getting contracts out of the government who are taking basically protection money. This is the most corrupt administration ever. You have literally people making money. As the President of the United States, his family has made $4 billion while he's in office. Same with Lutnick's kids, Witkoff's kids. They're all literally trading and making not public service, but private gain. And there's not a day that goes by that there's not something. Both the guy that got the reflecting pool was a friend who has a house on Mar-a-Lago next to the president, got a no-bid contract. Literally, this type of corruption would make a Chicago alderman blush.
Well, he might be in trouble because the pool's not doing so hot.
Well, that's just, how about this? The American taxpayers aren't doing so hot either. The question isn't that. The question is, there's not a day that goes by, take the president's 2 sons, they invest in a company and they win a defense contract for $760 million. Kaitlan, when you're at the White House, you cover this every day. This is the most blatantly corrupt administration. And as I said, this is a Qatari plane. He gets it, and you're paying $4 in gas.
Ambassador Rahm Emanuel,
Kaitlan.
Always a man of his words. Thank you so much for joining us here. Up next on The Source, speaking of the pool, it's not the only thing that got a new paint job. The plane did as well. We'll show you what the new Air Force One looks like because reporters got a look inside of it today. As I mentioned, President Trump now has his new Air Force One, as today he showed off the luxury $400 million jet that was gifted by the government of Qatar, which the Pentagon has just now finished retrofitting for the president to be able to use. And it is actually the president's personally, because the White House says this plane won't be used by following presidents. Instead, it'll go to Trump's presidential library when he leaves office. For his version, gone is the iconic baby blue paint job. It's been replaced with American flag red, white, and blue, as the president puts it. We're told that it will start taking flight soon, which will be welcome news to the president, who has long been frustrated that it's taken longer than expected to deliver the next generation of Air Force One planes. 2 of my top political sources are here tonight, including the former mayor of New Orleans, Mitch Landrieu, and the former special assistant to President George W. Bush, Scott Jennings. Mitch Landrieu, what are your thoughts on the new plane?
I remember in 2016 when Trump first got elected, he promised 2 planes and then jacked up Boeing to reduce the cost, and those planes still haven't been delivered. The second thing is this, as I saw Mayor Emanuel Rahm a little bit before, I mean, this was just a grift. So I'm glad we got the plane. I'm glad it's up and operating. It came from a foreign government, probably violates the emoluments clause. Trump said he's going to take it after it's over and use it for himself. So, I mean, I don't know what to think. It looked pretty to me. I've ridden on Air Force One before, and it's a good ride, but it's just so strange, the whole thing.
Mitch, is there any justification in your mind, given the old Air Force One has been in service since, I think, 1990? I mean, that's the president's argument about why they need a new one.
Well, first of all, we definitely needed new planes. But again, he started trying to get a new plane in 2016, and he spent 4 years not making it happen. And so now we got to the point where we could have delivered the planes. I don't know why he wasn't able to deliver a plane, but then to accept another plane from a foreign government that's trying to curry favor with the United States, and then take the plane when you leave and put it in your library, and I bet a lot of money that he's going to use it. It's just a weird set of circumstances. But the plane is beautiful. I hope he enjoys it, and I hope that it's gotten retrofitted now with $1 billion of taxpayer money. So let's just kind of get past this and get on with it. We'll figure out what the future looks like.
Scott, I mean, optics wise, when you look at the numbers, I mean, this is coming as 61% of Americans say they have to cut back on groceries. 44% say they're cutting back on how much they drive because of how much gas is, putting off medical treatments because of the cost. That's according to a CNN poll. Do you think it's bad timing here?
Well, look, the plane is overdue that he has been waiting for. There's supposed to be 2 planes coming from Boeing. And as you pointed out, the plane he had been using is pretty old, and it was time. And this plane's been retrofitted. The U.S. Air Force has confirmed, or I guess is about to confirm, that it's worthy of carrying around the President of the United States. I agree with Mitch. It's beautiful. And look, we want the president to be flying in a beautiful plane that is befitting the president of the greatest country on earth. And that's what we're going to have for, I guess, about 2 years. And then it's going to go sit at a library. And then Boeing will deliver the new planes. And the old planes, which I've flown on many times, that are also great, they're going to go to museums. And so, look, the presidential aircraft is an important symbol for the country and for the office of the presidency. I think what he's done with it here is great. And if the Air Force says it's worthy of the president, I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, reporters got a tour inside of it earlier. Go ahead, Mitch.
You just mentioned it earlier. The issue is not the plane. That's always a diversion. When the president ran for office, he said, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to end the war in Ukraine on day 1, which he has not done. I'm going to stay out of foreign wars. We're going to stay out of all that stuff. And I'm going to reduce your cost. And he has spent his time in chaotic moments, losing his focus, basically starting the war in Iran. Costs have gone up. People are really frustrated. And he spent times on bombs and ballrooms and planes and UFC fights. And the polls all show, Scott reads them as well as I do, and Scott's a smart guy, that the American public is like, get focused on my pocketbook because I'm hurting out here. And I don't think this is a good look. I don't know that you can avoid the timing, but he does seem to have lost focus in a big way on what American people want.
Yeah, I mean, Scott, he does bring this up a lot in terms of moments in the Oval Office where he's signing executive orders or he's talking about what's going on in D.C., whether it's the plane as it was today, the ballroom as they make the argument for it to be needed. I mean, the reflecting pool seems to be a metaphor in terms of the fact that they talked about how much they were going to fix it. They spent $14 million in taxpayer dollars on it. And now the paint's peeling off. I mean, Scott, when you look at that, I mean, how do you justify it?
Well, number one, I think it's great that the president has taken an interest in beautifying Washington, D.C. and updating the White House. Look, everybody, Democrat and Republicans who've worked in the White House, know we needed a new event space for Washington, D.C. And it won't be for Donald Trump. It'll be by the time he's going out of office. It'll be for every future president. And not only does it need to be befitting the President of the United States and our nation's capital, it needs to be secure. So he's not wrong about that. He took an interest in beautifying the Capitol and trying to beautify the reflecting pool. Obama spent $34 million on the reflecting pool and the Lincoln Memorial as well. And by the way, I think that's also great. The Capitol should be beautiful. It should be welcoming. It doesn't have to be a crap hole. We can have fountains that work. We can have a safe city.
What about the pool?
We can have a president that takes interest in all of it. And guess what? I hate to break the news to you, but algae's been on the green earth for 1.6 billion years. It's largely undefeated in summertime in the middle of the swamp.
Scott, that's fair, but what about the pool itself? I mean, it's clearly not working, whatever has been done to it.
Well, it is a stagnant body of water in the middle of a swamp in the middle of summer, and it's going to have some algae in it. They put in some nano bubblers, which I just learned about this week, and they're working on it. Am I surprised that algae is undefeated? No, I am not surprised that algae is undefeated. But when it's working, it's going to look awesome. And guess what? It should look awesome.
Mitch Landrieu, you're laughing.
All right. It's hysterical. I mean, look, when I became mayor of New Orleans and the city had been decimated by Katrina, the first thing I did not do was knock down City Hall and build a new building. You had to get people back in their homes and give them what they needed the most. This is with focus. I'm glad that they want to fix up things, but I'm just telling you, the American people are saying loudly and clearly to anybody that wants to listen to them, please focus on my pocketbook, because I'm dying out here while you're focused on ballrooms and UFC fights and dropping bombs and doing all this other stuff, and then trying to fix a pool that you can't even fix. So now I'm pissed. That's what they're saying. And it doesn't seem like the president's hearing it very much. And he actually said he didn't really care much about it a couple of weeks ago. And I know he's changing his tune now because gas prices are still going up and they got real problems right now.
Landrieu, Scott, Jennings, we got to leave it there. We're out of time. Well, we're going to leave it there. We're out of time. Scott, don't worry. You're always back. Welcome back here to debate. We'll have both of you back. Thank you for being here tonight. Up next, we got to talk about something that happened with Justice Department today after a judge demanded it put in writing that anti-weaponization fund is actually fully legally dead.